Hey guys, Kev here, and I want to do 3 quick rapid reviews for you. I'm going to move these 2 out of the way, and we can hit it. So, this one here is the Navajas Barbudo Balmis. This was loaned in to me by my buddy Steve. You can see there, Barbudo. This is designed by a guy out of Spain. And I'm still pretty much sure it's built by Reate. You can just tell by the feel and the build and everything, but I could be wrong. I didn't see it listed anywhere. And I kind of unboxed this, and, it's been a couple of weeks, I think. And I was like, not the greatest knife ever, but it has significantly grown on me to where I really do like this knife. And I think from a user standpoint, this knife is phenomenal, right? Now, of course, I didn't actually get a chance to look up pricing or anything. It's sold like on UK, some kind like UK Tools for Gents. I think it's toolsforgents.com or something like that. It's a UK website. So I wouldn't be able to translate the price anyway, just from feeling it and everything. And I would expect it to be around the $300 mark. More than that, it's getting a little bit too much. Less than that, I just don't think it would be less than that. But, so yeah, aesthetically, it's not my thing, right? It's a little bit thick, a little bit chunky. I don't know, just a little bit too sunny for me, if that makes sense. It's got a Tucson vibe to me. I'm not a big fan of the blade shape. Like, you guys know, I love a Warney sheep's foot, but the look of it just isn't for me. You know what I mean? Here's his maker's mark. I don't know what that is. I've never figured it out. Oh, it's a donkey. Sorry, it's a horse or a donkey. I don't know why I didn't see that before. The pivot is weird. It's like this spanner bit situation on both sides, and it's free spinning, which is weird. That does make me think Reate. The spanner bit doesn't, but the free spinning, the way it's done, does. The finishing, like just the media they use to finish these scales, just screams Reate, in my opinion. You have a bit of a pokey clip, like really pokey clip. Centering's dead on. So aesthetically, it's just not my style, but you have titanium, marbled carbon fiber, and you have an M390 blade here. M390. Ergo. So this is, the knife starts to shine when you get into use case, right? It just feels really good in hand. I thought this sort of transition was going to suck, but it doesn't. It just fits my hand really well. I get a great grip, and my finger or my thumb rides up the blade, and I kind of get right to this transition right here, and that's where I end up just really comfortable in hand, I gotta say. He nailed the ergonomics on this. You can climb into a pinch grip, get up to about here, at least I can on my index finger, and do some precision stuff. I would prefer a little less blade in that situation, but it is what it is. Talking about cutting, this M390 is ground extremely well. It is a saber grind. Flat grind starts right here. So you don't have a huge amount of grind there, but it comes down to a pretty thin grind. I'd say it's, it's like average 20 thousandths behind the edge, I'd think. Now, it cuts like an absolute beast, and with the ergonomics, it really just lends to that. I went through some cardboard with this when I was testing some knives, and when I say testing, I mean, I made like 5 or 6 cuts with the cardboard, through the cardboard, but this thing just was a laser beam. This was one where I was just holding the cardboard and going zip, 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 and just like watching the cardboard shoot across the room. It was awesome. You have this long, 3.75 inch freaking Warney that just attacks material and rips right through it. The edge is done extremely well, so it's just, for me, the geometry is excellent for cutting. I never got anything caught up in the hole. I was surprised at how much I loved it, to be honest, when I was cutting. And it looks like a good cutter, but just the whole package, the ergos and everything, and just in hand, just felt so good. That's, the best way for me to put it. Carry, it goes in your pocket really well. It sits in your pocket very well. Again, I don't like the pokey nature of this clip, but you don't feel it. Now, I guess right-handed, maybe. I haven't tried that. Yeah, you don't feel it in hand. So it's not really a negative. It's just a negative if you do that. Like, but who does that? And then in your pocket, it carries really well. Like it does. It's a little bit thick, but I carried it in my back left and never noticed. Never noticed the thickness or anything. So that doesn't bug me. And in terms of, back to ergos, in terms of comfortability, that thickness actually helps, right? It helps lock it in, where a thinner knife, the more you have to squeeze down through a cut, the worse it is having a thin knife. This being a little bit thicker, it's just more comfortable. Fills your hand out a little bit better. The sounds. Yeah, I'd give it like a 6 or 7 out of 10. I mean, I think it's good. It's got good acoustics. Loud enough. And there's no ting or anything like that. I like it. All right, so the action, guys. This flipper tab, it's just weird, right? It's kind of just a squared off, sort of straight down. There's no jimping. Like, just does not look like it works well, but it does. The Detent is dialed perfectly for it. Don't think I can fail it. Yeah, I can't fail it. It works. It really does. A couple times I've slipped over it, but honestly, the way it's angled and the way it just grabs you at that little bit of poke at the end, but not pokey, just a little bit to grab you, it almost works like jimping. It's excellent. Left-handed, same thing. I kind of do a push-pull or what I call a light button. Like, it works really well. And then you have this slot, which I wish they had cut a little bit further out and down so you had more access to it. But you can line it up and reverse flick it really easily. Left-handed, you just get below that bolster and you're good to go. The closing action, oof, man, it's almost drop shut. Right-hand flick works great. Thumb flick I never actually tried. So, hold on. You can get it, but you're kind of like putting pressure on the lock bar left-handed, and right-handed I'm putting it over here, so it's hard. So I wouldn't say it's very good at being thumb flicked. Maybe thumb rolled. Yeah, there you go. I basically just flicked it with the flipper and then lined up the reverse flick. The action on the close, like I said, is really good. Now, one issue I have with this knife, one big flaw for me is the late detent. It is super late. So, where is it? There. That's where I was. I almost thought I missed it. I was almost like, wait, is this the wrong knife? No, it's that late that it's all the way down there before it ever breaks that detent. Right there. Can you hear it? So it really sucks left-handed where you want it to be broken before you go to shake it down. And this one just is, you have to go all the way to here and then shake. So I just got used to doing this. I would just throw the knife, I just throw it down all the way instead of trying to get it ready to, drop. And then right-handed. Right-handed, it's fine because this flipper tab goes right past you. And you get right past it. So it's not that big. It's not like you're up here getting hit with it and then getting stuck. So it does work okay right-handed, but lefty, it kind of sucks. And that's why it's a flaw for me, right? So overall, I think it's a really cool knife, and I'm glad that Steve sent it to me. I basically said from the jump, this thing's ugly. Like, what the hell? I didn't say, what the hell? Why'd you send it to me? But I'm like, I'm not really interested in this, and I'm now glad he sent it because I can appreciate this knife. I don't want to run out and buy one, but I can really appreciate it. And I think for somebody who wants a really good EDC knife in terms of its cutting performance and ergonomics through some heavy work, but yet still has that quality finish of Reate, you are going to see little voids in there and stuff. That's just marble carbon fiber. I think this is a great option for that. Now, I don't know that many people in that category, but it's a cool knife, and I'm glad I got to experience it. So that's the Navajas Barbudo Balmis, Spanish designer on that one. Next up, we have the Jerry Moen Tooling. And there you go, Tooling. And there's your RWL 34, which we've seen a few times recently, and I just don't understand. This is one that I don't like all that much. Again, Reate build here. So that's, you can just see the finish, right? The media they use to finish their titanium is the same on not on every knife, but here's another example. Like, they just are very similar. You can see the micarta, like, it's Reate. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, the way we finishes titanium a lot of times is a bead blast. It's a little heavier. So, anyway. Let me put this back. All right, so the tooling here. It's an interesting looking knife. That's why I wanted to check it out. Centering's dead on. The detent on this one is just putrid. So let's talk aesthetics. It looks pretty cool closed, right? I kind of like how it looks. I know this guy, I think Jerry Moen designed the Mongoose, I believe, which is a cool looking knife. Then you open it, and it's a little too slim for me. It's just got a little too much of a hourglass thing going on. But it's still interesting. The whole shape is kind of cool, like a coat hanger. And then you get, like, you know, what is it? A drop point, spear point type blade, which is fine. And I think there's a miss here to do a flat grind. I think they should have done a hollow here, and this would have been epic for cutting. As is, it's pretty good, but you know, it works for everything I would need a knife for. But I just, you know, I think a hollow grind would have made it a better slicer. So yeah, that's aesthetics. It's, you know, yeah, it's It's okay. Ergo. So it actually is surprisingly comfortable in hand, even though it's not thin this way, really. It's thin this way, if that makes sense. Like, here's that Balmus again. I mean, it's not quite that thick, but it's approaching that thickness, which I'd say is a pretty thick knife. Here's the Cuff 2.0 or V2 from Liang Ma, which is a bit thinner there. It's just, I don't know, it's on the thicker side, I'd say, which is good, because when you have a knife this slim this way, you need to have girth in some fashion for ergonomics, and it does work. For me, it works comfortably in this grip, where I'm kind of like, I got my thumb locked into this right here, this thumb ramp situation. This is really comfortable. But, you know, as soon as I start messing around with other grips, you know, it's not as good. I enjoy this grip right here. And then you do have a pinch grip. And again, you just have a little too much blade on this one, like the last one, for what I like to do, climb up on it. And it does work, but I'm really close to that edge down here. So not my favorite for that. But ergonomics overall are actually pretty good, surprisingly, for the, you know, shape and everything. Carry, this clip is just atrocious. It has this ceramic ball, and it's kind of like a Liang Ma situation like he does, but those work really well functionally. This is like, you're just shoving that ball past your jeans. Is like, there's no other way to say it. You're just having to shove past that ball and rip it out. Like, and then there's not much going on other than that, right? It's just, you know, you just have that clearance. You don't have a bunch of tension down or anything. It's just that ball. So I really did not enjoy the way it carried, and I did not carry it very much because of that. So other than that, the thinness and everything is good. It's fine, right? It did, like I said, because it just has that ball relying on all the tension, it did shift a little bit in my back pocket, more so than other stuff. So I do want to point that out. Cutting. So I didn't do a ton with this knife. Like I said, this was the one that I didn't cut through cardboard, I don't think. I don't know why I didn't grab this one, or did I? I don't think I did. To me, this flat grind, I don't know. Again, I just wish it was a hollow grind. I don't know, you know, how much of a difference that makes, but to me, a hollow grind just makes way more sense. Like, it is sharp and it cuts. So there's that, right? Like, I don't know. I'm just not, I didn't do enough with it to really speak on it. It's fine. It's serviceable. You know what I mean? It's serviceable. It's just not like fantastic, is the way I would look at it. I do like how the tip kind of comes down at the end, though. So you do kind of get a little bit of a sheep's foot sort of situation there, where I can get to that tip really quick instead of having to get all the way up here. So I do like that. Sounds. They're okay. I mean, they're pretty good on the deployment. Pretty good thwack. On the close, it's really weak. Really thud. Very muted. I think that's because of the micarta on the sides. And there's no milling in there, so you're not getting acoustics bouncing around or reverberation or whatever. All right, so action. This is where this knife both shines and falls flat for me. The detent is just way too weak. Well, can't shake it out? Okay, that's good. The retention's good, but the detent is piss poor. I mean, you can see. So a reverse flick, you gotta give it gas to get it out. And it does flick pretty well. It feels pretty good, honestly. It's just like I just reviewed this Lefty shard. Yes, I can flick it out and have it be satisfying, but at the same time, I can so easily fail it, right? And that's how I feel about this one. Like, it's just, but if I try, it's fine, right? So I think for a lot of people, it's okay. You do have this sort of front top flipper thing going on, Pena style, sort of. A little bit more forward, I think. It catches pretty good on the thumb, but I just could not get the reach around to work for me. There we go. I finally got it. But, I struggled to get a reach around going very easily. But, again, you can reverse flick. This is both left and right-handed. You can thumb flick. So, you have all these cool ways of deploying it. I'm sure if you're fancy, some people, you can do this roll flick thing. I suck at doing it. Yeah, I suck at it. It's just not that satisfying for me to deploy this knife. I don't know. It just doesn't give me the fizzy wizzies. That's the best way for me to put it. And I think a lot of it has to do with that detent. It just doesn't have, a nice snap to it when it comes out. Yes, I can get it to lock up. But it's not what's-ah! You know what I mean? If I take this knife, when I reverse flick it, what-ah! Kicks out and locks up, right? This guy, just hey, I locked up. I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me. The closing action, because of that shit detent, is pretty good. I mean, it's very smooth in there. There's no grit or anything, so the action is very clean. It feels good, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's no detent, so there's not a lot of pressure there, right? But you got to give it credit for that. It does have a good closing detent or action. Sorry. The lock bar access is one of the worst things on this knife. I just don't understand why they didn't add a little bit of something, maybe some jimping over here or a little bit of a cutout here. That being said, it actually works really well. So sometimes you just don't need the access, even though it'd be nice to have it, if that makes sense. So I don't want to hate on the fact that it doesn't have a ton of, access in here, because it does work very well, actually. So I don't know. I don't want to hate on it. I just want to point out that you'll see it. It doesn't look very good, but it actually works very easily. And I think part of that is the fact that the detent's so weak that you don't have a ton of, lock bar tension. It's easy to push out of the way, right? Okay, so that's action, right? So I think overall, it's a decent knife. It's a cool knife. I think for RWL 34, which is basically 154 cm, if I understand that correctly, I think this thing was like 280 bucks, or I could be wrong. I think it's right around there. That's just, you know, I want more for my money at that point. I want M390 or equivalent or something. You know, it doesn't have to be M390. I know everybody's over it, but like not RWL34 in my opinion. Not that there's anything like super wrong with that steel. It's just, I don't know. That would stop me from buying a knife. Like knowing that it's RWL 34 would stop me from buying a knife. Like the Black Snow Customs or whatever, the mini opiate. The fact that that's RWL makes me not want to spend $400 on it, you know? So anyway, that's the Jerry Moen Tooling. This one's loaned in by Jared over at Knives Knives. So thank you to Jared. And then lastly, we have the Sheepdog here. This is the premium Sheepdog with the hull or the Flipper Elite, whatever you want to call it. This one is in, is that M390? No, S35BN. That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. There's your model number, your logo, and then over here you have lots of oil from Jared, and you have the Sheepdog Designs look, or maker's mark there. And this knife is cool. I understand a lot of people love it. I'm just over the Sheepdog at this point. I don't understand the hype all that much. And I'm just kind of over it. They're heavy. They're tall. They're not thick, but they're tall. They're just heavy. They're bulky. And they just can't get the detents right. They're just, this is way too strong. Yeah, it's just way too strong. So, again, aesthetically, I think it looks good close. It's the Sheepdog, guys. I think it's a good-looking knife. I think it looks better without the flipper and with the hole. I think it definitely looks better that way. It was meant to be this way. I don't know why it took them so long. Ergonomically, it's comfortable in hand, right? It's a big knife, so you get a lot of room, get a full-size grip. Finger fits right into this sort of finger slot. Boom, very comfortable. I can choke up. Flipper Elite. You do have a little bit of a gap here from your finger to your hand, but you get used to it, and it feels good. I like that there's a little bit of a choily thing or whatever between me and the edge. Nice, right? We're talking titanium, blue pivot collar, these like speed hole thingies, and then the S35. That's your materials. Cutting, you got a really tall sheep's foot blade. People call these pocket cleavers. I wouldn't even call it a cleaver. I'd call it a sheep's foot. You know, it's relatively thick stock, and then but you have a tall blade, so you're gonna get a flat grind that starts about a third of the way down and goes 2/3 of the way down. So you're gonna get a pretty thin edge. It's gonna cut really well. This has a great edge on it, maybe from Jared, maybe from factory, but the Sheepdog has always been a good EDC knife in my opinion because you get that low tip, so you can get good penetration on cuts like that or into a bag or package or whatever. And then it also has, you know, a good amount of sort of straight, you know, maybe a little bit of belly, but it's just a very useful blade shape. You guys know I love a sheep's foot. So cutting for me would be excellent. Carry, yeah, that's where these knives start to fall apart for me. They're just too heavy and bulky, and putting this thing in your pocket, it's just gonna weigh you down. This thing has to be at least 5 ounces. It's just gonna weigh you down, right? Like, yeah, you don't have a ton sticking out, but it's super wide. And I don't carry other stuff in my knife pocket, but it's just annoying. I just, you know, especially with the flipper tab, this is obviously better, but still, look how much room you're taking up in your pocket. Like, it's just, for me, I'm just over that, you know. Sounds are good. So it has really good clicks and clacks, thwacks, and you know, all the good stuff when it comes to sound. So action. the Detent, man, they just went way too strong on this. What they did was they left it at the flipper Detent, and that was it. They called it a day. They didn't adjust for the hole. You can see that it's easy for me to slip out of there, and I am trying to put pressure on that. And when it comes out, it flies out. But after a few of these flicks, it can hurt. I mean, if you catch your finger or nail at the wrong spot, it's going to hurt because it's so stiff. You got to catch it at the bottom of the hole. If you try to go for the top of the hole, like the top, it just gets stronger the higher you go. Right-handed, I can't even do a thumb flick because the lock bar is just there. Like, I can try to stay off, and I just can't get it well. I'm just not good at it because my natural position would be to hold it like this and flick. But I'm all over that lock bar. So, like, it's just awkward to hold it any other way. Righty reverse flick works. Again, strong detent, but you can do it. Left-handed, thumb flick's great. That's probably the best deployment out of any of them is just the left-handed thumb flick. Again, strong detent, though, because you're at the top of the hole there. Reverse flick lefty, man. You really got to get at the bottom of the hole, stay on the clip, and you can get it. And it's not that bad. It's not too strong. Again, after a while, yeah, or you'll accidentally slide up, and then you're kind of like, it's just too strong, honestly. That's the best way for me to put it. The fuller is useless. You can't. There's no way. You can slow roll the knife like that. So, you know, it is what it is. And for such a heavy blade, you'd think it would drop shut. It's definitely not bad. It's just, you know, you'd think it would drop just a little bit more and maybe just be a guillotine, honestly. Like, I would compare it to the Evo a little bit, right? Carrying that today. This just feels better in pocket all around. And boom. Hey, I got the flick. So, it's definitely still good. I don't know what it is. I think it might be the carbon fiber, for one, makes this a lot lighter. And I do think it is slimmer in pocket. Not by a wide margin, but it definitely is slimmer. So I much prefer to carry this. I have no real issue carrying this. I love carrying the Evo. But this is just too heavy, too much. I did have the full tie version, and it was a little heavier, so that would be a better comparison. I don't know if I would carry that one the way I carry this one, because this one's still only like 3.8 ounces or something, so it's awesome. But they also extensively mill it out. I don't know what they do on the... Yeah, there's no milling. See, that's what I'm saying. Why aren't they milling out the scales on these? It would make it so much nicer. Yeah, you have the 3 slots, but that's it. This whole side could take some milling and cut it, you know. If you cut an ounce off of this thing, it would feel a lot better, I think. So, anyway. Overall, I get it. It's an iconic knife, and a lot of people love it. This one was loaned in by Jared as well. And I know Jared loves the Sheepdog. Jared and Kara, they love the Sheepdog. They have like 10 different versions of the Sheepdog. It's just not for me. I'm over it at this point. I was over it before they started putting holes in them. So they were just a little too late. They played it out a little too long for me. So yeah, still a cool knife though. Totally understand it. Ergos are great. Cutting's great. I get it. So that's the Sheepdog from Kizer. The Jerry Moen Tooling made by Reate. And we have the Navajas Barbudo Balmis. Big thank you to Steve and Jared for loaning these guys in. Really appreciate it. And let me know what you guys think in the comments. Would you use this guy for some cool cardboard cutting and work, or is it a little too fancy for that? What do you think of this guy? You think that detent's just a little too light on this guy, or this access, or this clip? Just, you know, does that just kill it for you? Maybe the RWL 34 does, but it's also really fidgety, and it's cool, and it fits your hand really well. And are you a Sheepdog fan? You know, are you still on the train? Blade HQ dropped the 10V versions in my Carta. It's probably a great option. $80 for 10V and micarta. Great option, guys. Check them out. So that's it. I love you guys. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day, and I will catch you later.